Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Wednesday night live stream for Week 8 of the 2025 fantasy football season. Over the course of the next hour and a half, we're talking all things fantasy football related, whether it is waiver wire pickups. I know waivers ran last night, but for many of you, players may have been dropped in your league because teams in your league are dealing with a bipocalypse. Again, if players of value have been dropped, this may be an opportunity to go ahead and scoop them up. In the event in which you were not able to get the players that you went after via the waivers last night because you did not have enough fab and or the priority to claim them, we'll of course discuss some other options we can pivot to going into the given week. Outside of that, of course, we're talking trades, we're talking starter sits, all things fantasy football related. All you guys have to remember is whether you go ahead and type a question into the live chat or claim priority by sending in a super chat, make sure you include your scoring format. The more context you provide in regards to what kind of a league structure you're playing in, the easier it'll be for myself and other members of the community to answer your questions. Hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful Wednesday. Again, the NBA has tipped off last night and, of course, continue to have a lot of games. So besides the fact that we have the NBA, the World Series is about to begin, and football continues to spit out some fire games as of late. Really excited about how everything's going in life. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, earlier today, I went ahead and I posted my top 40 wide receiver rankings for half PPR week 8 earlier today. That video has been posted, so if you guys have any questions in regards to wide receiver starter sits going into the Thursday night game, of course, you can check that out. But if you guys want Sunday morning rankings, besides swinging by the live stream, you can always go ahead and check out Betr by signing up using code Andrew, making that first time deposit minimum of 10 and making a first time play. You'll get those rankings every single Sunday morning sent from my email directly to yours, all encompassing rankings, half and full PPR. Thank you. Okay, let's get into answering questions because I know there's many of questions to be answered. Let's begin with a couple super chats that were sent in via priority. We have Juice Vino. Juice, hope you're doing well, my man. Says, hey Drew, questions in the chat. Okay, let's see what we have here. Says, I lost Evans, Hill, and Malik. Okay, first and foremost, why do you got to deliver the bad news to begin with, brother? I mean, okay, bad news first. Okay, let's see what the good news. Let's see if there is any. Full PPR 10-team league. Running back is Barkley, Kyren, Aaron Jones. I don't see any good news here. Barkley is a shell of himself. Kyren doesn't get any workload on the goal line. Aaron Jones has been injured for you. Rico Dowdle, again, is in a split backfield. Woody Marks is in a split backfield. Kamara doesn't get enough touches. Ricky Pearsall's injured. Debo Samuel's injured. Okay, I'm not. Okay. We're gonna. Professional. Okay, so obviously your team is in turmoil. Hopefully your win-loss record is not as brutal as the overall injuries and the unfortunate reality of your fantasy season has been. Hopefully you've been able to pull out some victories here and there. Your question primarily is, who should I target for a trade? Now, if we're going in regards to how can we improve this team, obviously tight end is not going to move. I think I would keep Ferguson. I mean, he scored 6 receiving touchdowns in the last 4 games. He is one of your priority contributors that, again, we want to continue to keep on roster. Debo Samuel, when he's healthy, is very productive. Dobbs has been incredible in terms of overall opportunity share. Obviously, we would like to improve upon wide receiver, but if you're in a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, I'm okay with Debo and Dobbs for now. In regards to running back, obviously you have a lot of them, and maybe we can go ahead and ship some off in order to bring back some depth. In the case of who I'm trying to keep out of the group, I would probably keep Barkley for now. I think Kyren, Aaron Jones, Rico, Woody, and Kamara can all be potentially shipped off. Specifically Kyren, because he's on a bye week this week, could be the easiest sell in this circumstance. Aaron Jones coming off the injury, difficult to sell. Rico is probably easier to sell as well. So in the case of which you can move like a Kyren and a Rico, maybe go after a Derrick Henry, genuinely, I would be looking to try to explore that reality if potentially possible. If you're not in a position to where your league is like, they're kind of, I would say, a little bit hesitant or not as active within the trading category, perhaps you can go after Travis Etienne. I understand he's on a bye, but I really do like his upcoming schedule ahead. And he may be a little bit of a lesser option in terms of name value in comparison to a Derrick Henry. If we're looking for other alternative options, again, if you're looking immediately, I'm sure that there is enough wide receivers on the depth, in terms of depth on waiver wires, to be able to go and like scrounge up a couple players there that I mentioned in my top 40 wide receiver rankings today. So look in that direction. But as of right now, I want to solidify RB. Instead of just having 8 guys that may be decent, I want to try to get like 2 or 3 that are going to be outright starts blind rest of season. And Henry and Etienne would kind of be that overall approach for me as of right now in terms of a suggestion. Thank you, Juice. Appreciate it. LZ says, what's up? Questions in the chat. LZ, hope you're doing well. Says in a PPR, team is in 4th place. Is trading CeeDee Lamb and Dowdle away to the last place team for Barkley and Amon-Ra collusion? No, it's not. Here's the thing. as of right now, mathematically speaking, there is no team that technically is eliminated from playoff contention unless you play in a league where it's like a 14-team league and only 6 teams make playoffs. Only in that kind of a scenario would I venture to say that there is a team out of contention. This is the reason why in my main leagues, I never veto a trade. My main leagues, I'm always the commissioner, primarily because of this singular purpose. I try to play with people that 100% of the time are never going to collude, because again, there are people of integrity. So in the case of this trade, you never know. Let's say, for example, you are traded Barkley and Amon-Ra, and next week Barkley has a season-ending injury. The trade for this team being vetoed, the guy that has Barkley would be pissed. He's like, I could have had CeeDee Lamb and Dowdle and my season would have been completely different. But every single one of you decided to veto this trade. Because the future is unpredictable, truly, as much as we want to say that we can predict what is potentially going to occur based on targets, based on usage, the injury factor and the unpredictability of that nature makes it to where I never try to, have ourselves a situation in which a veto would ever take place. Now, I will objectively tell you, Amon-Ra and Barkley is more valuable than CeeDee Lamb and Dowdle. And trading with the last place team looks really bad for optics. But ultimately, in my leagues, I never decline trades of this magnitude. I'll just let it rip. It doesn't matter to me. Because at this point, like I know, and I've seen it in the past, people want to make trades, they'd make a trade, and the team that thought, oh man, I just got a lick, season-ending injury, and it's done. Thank you, LZ. Chronified, what's up, my man? Says I traded Chase Brown and Diggs for Garrett Wilson, Benson, and ETN. Fantastic. Garrett Wilson, in my mind, has more value than Diggs going forward. And then additionally, ETN has significantly more value than Chase Brown. So in this regard, you're getting a free Benson and a double upgrade in this circumstance. Obviously, Garrett Wilson in the quarterback's conversation within the New York Jets organization is a little bit sketchy, but we have seen that even with Tyrod Taylor, he was relevant in that game against Tampa Bay earlier on in the season, week 3. So not too worried about the overall status of Garrett Wilson or ETN going forward. I think this is a great trade on your behalf. And again, Garrett Wilson's not going to play this week considering they have a bye next week, but I think it's still very much so advantageous position to be in. Says I already have Dak, Henry, Kamara, Lamb, Olave, Bowers, Judkins, and Waddle. Did I win the trade? I think objectively you did. Congrats, man. WRM sends in a question. Thank you, WRM. Says trade Swift and McConkey for Nico and Dowdle. Well, Nico Collins is currently on the concussion protocol, so it really just becomes a question of like, are you okay just trading for a player that's injured? Then subsequently after, it becomes a matter of, do I want to go ahead and have a share or have some sort of relation with the Houston Texans offense in the current iteration of which it is at? To which my thought process is no. I think I'd rather have both of these players because the separation in my mind between Swift and Dowdle is significant enough, considering Chuba Hubbard is not going anywhere anytime soon, to where, between Nico Collins and McConkey, even though on paper, Nico Collins is the primary number one of his offense in comparison to McConkey, who is in an offense that, quite frankly, 4 players could come away with the most targets within that given week. I think I'd still rather have the Swift and McConkey side of this. Ibrahim sends in a question. Ibrahim, I hope you're doing well, my man. Says, any suggestions in my double flex league in which I can play wide receivers and running backs in those flex spots? We have half PPR. Quarterback is Lamar. Running backs are Christian McCaffrey, Henry, Scatterbu, Swift, Montgomery. Wide receivers are A.J. Brown, Diggs, Debo, Evans, and we have Jake Ferguson at tight end. Okay, so in this current position, obviously you're lacking in a little bit of the overall wide receiver depth, but considering you're playing in a half PPR scoring format, I would personally prefer to rather play running back in my flex positions. So I think you're in a really solid spot here with 3 studs. Evans eventually will return probably week 13, 14. So hopefully by the time we get to the fantasy playoffs, he'll be available there for you. But in the meanwhile, in regards to who you're starting on a given weekly basis, like Christian McCaffrey, Henry, Scatterbu will start every week henceforth. And honestly, the way that Swift has been playing as of late, he's a monster and you can put him in your flex position as well. So unless you're going to theoretically take Swift and, potentially add him onto maybe Diggs or Debo and flip him for a huge upgrade, theoretically speaking. Let's say you took Swift and Diggs or Swift and Debo and you got Puka Nacua in exchange. Then at that point, I'm like, okay, we can make a move of this caliber to where we're taking 2 players who in their own right, when healthy, in the correct positioning, are top 15 options at their positions. You can flip both of them for a top tier player in exchange going after a Puka, a JJ, etc. To where, yes, you're losing depth in a double flex league, and losing depth definitely hurts, but getting back a player of a top tier caliber is worth it. So that's what I would potentially try to explore the reality of and see if those teams who have those elite wide receivers are perhaps in search of a trade upcoming in which they need more depth, specifically at running back when they're giving back a wide receiver in this kind of capacity. Mo Money sends in a question, says trade Rome Odunze and Travion Henderson for Tetero, McMillan, and Charbonnet. You know, to be honest, I actually don't mind this trade. The reality of the situation is Travion Henderson, unfortunately, was fool's gold of the preseason. As it currently stands, and as we will probably perceive for the remainder of the season, if Ramondre Stevenson's healthy, he is the RB1 and it's clear in a way, and he is going to continue to be the primary goal line back on top of that. So the value which Travion Henderson provides at this current moment is zero. He is not startable. He is not someone that you would even consider putting in your lineup, even in an advantageous matchup like this most recent week where they took on the number one matchup at RB, taking on the Tennessee Titans, in a game in which they mounted a lead and still didn't give him much run. So in this current iteration of the offense, I genuinely would probably rather have the Tetero, McMillan, Charbonnet combination, because I think in a double wide receiver, double flex format, PPR league, I think this combination contributes more to my roster in comparison to what this would provide. Now, looking at your roster, Amon-Ra, JSN, BTJ, Rome. So theoretically, you would have these three starting, or at least these two at wide receiver, for sure. Then we're looking for who do we start at RB. As of right now, it gives you a little bit more depth here, considering Judkins and Alvin Kamara will have upcoming buys. You can slip Charbonnet into their positions. RJ's not startable. Travion's not startable. Algiers not startable, unless, again, you're in a bipocalypse. Rashard Smith, very much so not startable. So I think what you're getting in exchange here, in terms of the stability with a 4-3 team, I think it's worth it. Felix Rodriguez says, start two. We have Ladd McConkey, Vidal, Tetero, McMillan, Rome Odunze in a full PPR scoring format. So Vidal would never start in comparison to the field, even though I do, designate it as a very advantageous matchup in terms of rushing statistics. Again, the unknown nature as of right now in regards to Joe Alt and Trey Pipkins, both of the starting tackles of this offensive line going into this week, makes it a little bit more sketchy in regards to the potential viability of starting a running back into that overall matchup, to which right now I'm leaning towards Ladd McConkey and Tetero McMillan. If theoretically speaking, you were not a huge fan of the potential of Tet with Andy Dalton, then you just go Ladd McConkey and Rome Odunze as of this week. Ladd will be my last option in which I would ever consider here. Adam C sends in a question. Adam, thank you very much. Says Tetero McMillan or Addison in a full PPR. I think there could be an argument for both. Like I mentioned earlier today, I went ahead and I put together my top 36 wide receiver rankings. I'm just going to go ahead, sorry, not my top 36, top 40 wide receiver rankings, just to go ahead and review them with you guys. In regards to where I have Tetero McMillan at number 15 and Jordan Addison at number 18. The reason why we rank them within tiers is because I could justify starting Addison over McMillan based on where I currently have them projected. That's why they sit within the C tier, because I'm more than happy to justify Addison over Higgins, Addison over Pickens, Addison over Waddle, etc. So in the case of those two, even though I do prefer Tetero McMillan, it is purely going to be based on if in fact Andy Dalton is going to get him that double-digit target range in which I'm anticipating him to get to. In the event in which you want to just play it safe, don't really want to mess with Andy Dalton and the potential that that could provide, just play Addison on Thursday, because I can justify him coming off of a career high 12 targets, tied a career high of 9 receptions, incredible numbers. So I think he's going to continue to get a lot of workload in that offense, and I have no problem with that. Also, Dart or Love, I would rather play Jackson Dart primarily because the rushing upside he provides. Only in a situation in which we had Josh Jacobs out would I ever consider playing Love, because at that point I would anticipate a little bit more passing upside in terms of statistics gathered. Otherwise, Dart is my play. Alex Songgrass sends in a question. Alex, hope you're doing well, my man. Full PPR on 4-3. Trade Bucky Irving for Henry immediately. Without a doubt in my mind, I would immediately make this trade, and here's primarily why. Even though I do identify Bucky Irving in a full PPR to potentially be a better option than Henry pre-injury, what I potentially perceive to potentially happen for the remainder of the season, I keep saying the word potentially, is because it's an unknown. I think that even when Bucky Irving returns after the bye week, if I'm not mistaken, they have a week 9 bye. Let me just confirm this. Buccaneers schedule. As it currently stands, the upcoming schedule includes a week 9 bye. So if he's going to miss the next 2 games and you're not going to get him back until week 10, my assumption is that even when he returns, Rachaad White is going to be far more involved going forward than he was to begin the season in order to protect Bucky from himself and protect him from the high utilization of touches that they exposed him to, which originally got him injured. So Henry, who again is just, he's a machine. He's a Terminator. Let's be honest. He's the T100. Derrick Henry's the preferred because I think Bucky's overall workload is going to be diminished as we proceed. It says in a non-PPR league, 6 point per passing touchdown, trade Ferguson or Kittle for Drake May. I have JD5 and Jackson Dart. Go with Dart. I would just stick with Dart genuinely because I want to wait until, like, obviously Ferguson's the best tight end in fantasy right now. But as of right now, in regards to what the potential of Kittle provides, he's going to score so many touchdowns going forward that I think his value, I think getting a quarterback in exchange for it may not be the right approach. You might be able to position yourself to maybe move him for an even better player in the future after he starts racking up touchdown performances. So for right now, if I was you, I would just stick with Dart going forward, considering that rushing upside is just so plentiful within his overall workload. And of course, he's only continuing to learn and get more uncomfortable within the offense, and now has an opportunity of taking on a defense that he torched just a couple weeks ago. It says non-PPR, start 3, Jacobs, Achane, Mason, Dowdle, and Sutton. In the non-PPR format, I probably go, assuming Jacobs is healthy, Jacobs, Achane, and Sutton most likely. And Mason. Do I want to play Achane over Sutton? I think I want to, but okay, so I'm leaning towards Jacobs and Mason as the 1-2 combo here in a standard league where 0 points per reception, to which then I'm beginning to think it purely becomes a matter of game script, where if Sutton is going to get himself all the opportunity share in the second half of the game against Dallas, the number 1 matchup, he could honestly score a touchdown, which is what I really want to capture in this circumstance. I think it's close. I probably go all 3 running backs, but I could justify playing Sutton over Achane here in a non-PPR. Thank you. Spencer sends in a question. Spencer, hope you're doing well, my man. Says start Dak Prescott or Herbert this week. Honestly, that's a really good question. I think Dak Prescott in almost every week should be a blind start rest of the way. But considering he's playing Denver, I can understand the hesitation as to why we might want to like not play him there. But then again, Jackson Dart just went into Denver and scored 4 touchdowns, 3 through the air and 1 on the ground. So like, am I afraid for the potential of Dak Prescott? Not really, because I know he's got elite talent and he's surrounded by elite talent. This all said, I'm playing Herbert this week. Okay. Continuing on, start Brashard Smith. They're going to be relatively close in my tomorrow's video, in which I have quarterback and tight end rankings. I'll probably have them like quarterback 5 and quarterback 7. So if you wanted to play Dak, you could, but I'm going to lean towards Herbert against Minnesota. Start Brashard Smith or RJ Harvey. I'd rather play Brashard Smith this week. Trade Brashard Smith for Ramondre. I don't know how you could accomplish that, but if you somehow were able to get away with that, immediately accept it and hope nobody vetoes. Thank you. Jonathan says, half PPR, start Jordan Mason, Keon Coleman, or Wan'Dale Robinson. Jordan Mason would be number 1. Wan'Dale Robinson would be number 2. Keon Coleman would be 3. Thank you. Andrew Pacina sends in a question. Andrew, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it, my man. Says trade Swift and Hampton for Josh Jacobs in a full PPR. I think it purely depends on a couple factors. First and foremost, what your running back depth looks like across the board. If you can afford to give away Hampton because you're in a position to where you're like, listen, I know I'm not getting Hampton back anytime soon. Likelihood is he won't return until maybe week 11. So if you need the wins between now and then, weeks 8, 9, 10, 11, you need the next 4 wins here. And Jacobs is going to be able to accomplish that for you because, again, I do believe he is a better play than Swift, henceforth, then sure. But in the event in which you're like, well, Andrew, I'm already sitting at a 5-2 record. I have a 6-1 record, 4-3 maybe. I don't know if it's as necessary as in comparison to where I'm like, yeah, I'm 3-4. I've got to start stringing together wins, and I just want to have the best players in position, and I can't really hold on to Hampton for now. That's the only reason I would ever take this trade. Thank you. Carlos Rodriguez says, AJ Brown, Gadsden, we have Harvey for Tetero McMillan, JCM, and Loveland. Okay, so here is the thought process, right? JCM has significantly more value than Harvey. Loveland has, essentially 0 value in comparison to Gadsden. And then AJ Brown has more value than Tetero McMillan. So at this point, I think it's only just a pure matter of, do you need running back? like how desperately do you need running back here? Because JCM could be the move, but you are objectively taking downgrades at both wide receiver and tight end, to which I would say if the desperation for running back isn't significant, then I don't make this trade. And in fact, I would rather just go elsewhere and try to make a trade where maybe it is purely just Tet and JCM for AJ Brown Gadsden. I think that could theoretically, I think that could be balanced. I don't think I need to move Harvey and Loveland. I think that's just the irrelevant pieces at this point. But it purely just depends on the necessity for running back. And if it is a necessity, I don't think I'm going after JCM of anybody. I'd rather go after Chase Brown. I'd rather go after ETN. Those are the primary guys that have some really advantageous schedules ahead. If you guys haven't checked out my video that I posted last Friday, it has Derrick Henry on the thumbnail. It was rest of season running back rankings, but the most important part of that overall video is the rest of season running back strength of schedule. If you go ahead and you skip through into the timestamps, you can find a lot of valuable information there in terms of what running backs we should be targeting henceforth. Thank you. Flotation says, I have a question on X. Thanks in advance. Okay, appreciate it, Flotation. I'm hoping you got a W, Flotation. I'm thinking of your roster. Not sure if you were able to pick up a win this most recent week. I know that obviously the Olave trade definitely got you in the right position, I believe. So hopefully that's going to continue. Says full PPR, got the dub last week. Thoughts on the matchup? Okay, I'm glad that you got the dub. Obviously, I think you're trending in a better direction. Now that Woody Marks and Ramondre are kind of starting to trend the right direction, Kayshon Boutte continues to score touchdowns. Olave's a stud. In terms of the overall matchup as it stands, they are in just, I think you have a pretty solid advantage. If I was you, I would just try to ensure that Justin Fields is maybe picked up off of the waivers if he was dropped. I know the team that you're playing against has Tyrod, but I would never give him a chance to even have it, a potential of picking up and playing Fields in case Tyrod's knee injury does hold him out this week. So that's the only thought process I have there. Otherwise, in terms of the overall positioning of potential players, I don't know if, how deep your league is, but if someone like Jalen Noel, who's a thumbnail of today's live stream, is potentially available, I would look to try to go pick him up, as I see you have one available bench spot for this week. Or technically it would be filled by Ridley, but I'd be willing to drop technically Malik Washington in order to accomplish that. Otherwise, that's my only thought process. Fields, if available, pick him up just to make sure he can't get him. You're pretty much just avoiding the potential which he has to play a quarterback in that super flex position. Otherwise, good looking team going forward. Prod sends in a question. Says questions in the chat about trading Josh Allen. Okay. Says I'm in a 4-point per passing touchdown format. Josh Allen for Justin Jefferson and Quentin Johnston. Yeah, I'll take the Jefferson and Quentin Johnston side of this. I have Trevor Lawrence as my backup quarterback and Aaron Rodgers on the waiver. Would you accept this trade or no? I would love to know what the rest of your wide receivers on roster currently consist of and how much of an incredible upgrade Justin Jefferson and Quentin Johnston would evidently be for your roster. In the event in which both of them immediately become starting options and your alternatives were, Andrew, I was going to play DJ Moore and Keon Coleman this week, I'd say 1,000% of the time this is a worthwhile trade, and I'm more than happy to start Rodgers and Trevor Lawrence rest of the way because of the impact in which these two players are going to individually make within my starting lineup in comparison to this singular player in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. So for right now, if you can, just type in the live chat. Don't have to send in any more supers. Just type in the live chat and let me know what your other wide receivers on roster are, just so I have a clearer picture. Thank you. Big Cat, what's up? Says, hi, Goat. Trade Alvin Kamara, Mason Taylor, or Njoku, and Trevor Lawrence for Ramondre Stevenson, Aaron Jones, and Zach Ertz. In a PPR, I already have Purdy, HN, and ETN, or hold on to Alvin Kamara. What's better long term? Well, here's my thought process. Okay, so, it's Daniel Jones, not Aaron Jones. My apologies. I see the D Jones. Okay, so obviously I prefer Daniel Jones over Trevor Lawrence going forward. I as of right now, genuinely, I would maybe even prefer Zach Ertz over this combo, depending on a couple factors. Obviously, Jaden Daniels has to be healthy. Otherwise, I prefer probably Mason Taylor rest of the way. And in between Alvin Kamara and Ramondre, in a full PPR, I would like to assume that Alvin Kamara is in a better position to succeed now that Kendre Miller unfortunately went down with the season-ending injury. But Ramondre seems like if he continues to stack up touchdowns here, could be of more value because the offense is just objectively more successful and will lead to more touchdowns as we proceed. And he doesn't have a Taysom Hill in his back pocket. So as of right now, I don't actually mind this trade, at which I'm getting Ramondre, Daniel Jones, and Zach Ertz. Not one bit. I don't mind it at all. Obviously, I think Zach Ertz is a little bit of a downgrade as of right now, considering Jaden Daniels is out. But Jaden Daniels is not expected to miss probably more than this week. So I'd feel relatively comfortable taking this because I get a quarterback upgrade. I honestly, even if Ramondre, Alvin Kamara is a little bit of a downgrade, I don't think it's a significant one. Unless Alvin Kamara goes back to, touching the ball 25 times per game, which is the hope, but tough to predict, especially considering the lack of usage he has seen over the course of the last month of the season. So I'm willing to make this move in terms of the long-term, potential of what these three provide in comparison to those three. Thank you. Coolest nerd ever says in a half PPR, I need two. DK, Judkins, Roman, Ladd. In a half PPR scoring format, it's probably Ladd, McConkey, and Rome Odunze as the better options in terms of this week. Judkins against that New England Patriots defense is tough to start. DK against Green Bay could be a value, but very much so touchdown dependent. Very similar to Rome, so I guess it's just a matter of who you anticipate to score a touchdown. I think it's easier to score a touchdown against Baltimore secondary as of thus far this season. So these are the two that I'd go towards. Still thinking about this Alvin Kamara trade. If Alvin Kamara goes back to touching the ball 20 times per game and he catches like 5 passes per game, then at that point, he is technically more valuable than Ramondre. Let me see the upcoming schedule. Let me open up my spreadsheet here. I'm actually curious what the upcoming schedule looks like for Ramondre in terms of strength of schedule. And then I'll kind of give you a little bit more of a breakdown on this trade because I think this makes a pretty big, there's a lot of potential for this trade to determine your season here. So when I look at the upcoming schedule ahead, the New Orleans Saints have the toughest or the fourth toughest schedule, technically the third toughest schedule from weeks 8 through 14. They have to take on Tampa Bay, Los Angeles Rams, Carolina, Atlanta, Tampa Bay. They have one good matchup in week 13 on the ground. So unless Kamara starts catching the ball a bunch of times, I'm going to take Ramondre here rest of the way, genuinely. And additionally, when we look at the fantasy playoff strength of schedule, weeks 15, 16, 17, Ramondre has the number one schedule because of Buffalo, Baltimore, and the New York Jets. Thank you. All right, continuing on. Let me go back up here and see if Prod had a thing. It says, thanks, Andrew. Get this when you can. Wide receivers I have on roster. Nico Collins, Cortland Sutton, Ricky Pearsall. I lost Mike Evans. Okay, so in the event in which you could theoretically start Jefferson, Cortland Sutton, and then probably Nico Collins, right? Let's say you start those three, wide receiver, flex. My only then follow-up question is, can I start 3 wide receivers in 1 flex or 2 wide receivers in 2 flex? That becomes the next question. Because I think Evans at this point for you is like a lost cause. Ricky Pearsall could be a player that maybe you trade in the future. But I'm just trying to figure out now, like, is Jefferson and Quentin Johnston going to join roster and immediately start? In the event in which they do, because you can start 3 wide receivers, 1 flex, or 2 wide receivers, 2 flex, I make the trade. If not, I can still justify it in a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, to which I probably make this trade, and then maybe I take Nico and Quentin Johnston, and I go trade for Puka Nacua or something crazy. I try to go find a team that has a really stud wide receiver, but is just needing depth, or maybe I trade them for running back help. But yeah, if you can start 3 wide receivers, 1 flex, I take the trade. If you can't, I'd only make this trade if I can look to potentially move Nico and actually get some value in return. Maybe moving him for like ETN if you need running back help or something like that. Maybe go after Derrick Henry potentially. Appreciate it. All right, Weston Nelson says, hey man, hope you're doing well. Questions in the chat. Thank you. I'm doing well. Again, a quick reminder for you guys. I'm going to be here until probably 7:30, so I'll be here for another hour answering questions. Appreciate you guys swinging by, asking questions. It's greatly appreciated. If you guys haven't yet already, do me a favor, click the like button down below. Thank you very much. Okay. Weston says I'm 3-4 in a 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 1 tight end, 2 wide receiver, double flex format, full PPR. I've got Josh Allen, Bijan Robinson, Chase Brown, Chuba Hubbard, Chubb, Keenan Allen, Flowers, Wan'Dale Robinson, Tez Johnson, Diggs, Kupp, Goddard, Kincaid. What trade should I make for running back? Well, I think as of right now, if you were going to theoretically look to trade for a running back, when I look at I'll go open it again. You know what? I don't even have to do it here. Let me just go back to, actually I do. I'll just look at it from here. Because if I try to bring up the graphics, probably not going to be as impactful if I just read it. If I'm looking at upcoming schedules for running backs that are just going to dominate, like genuinely, anybody who plays in the AFC or NFC North has really advantageous matchups. So Jalen Warren, Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, DeAndre Swift, Josh Jacobs, Gibbs, etc. So in the event in which you were looking outside of those alternative options, considering you already have a Chase Brown and you were trying to potentially move him, again, I'm going to continue to harp on the idea that I would like to trade for Travis Etienne. I would like to trade for potentially Hampton, but you're 3 and 4, so it's not the best position to be in. I'd also like to potentially go after, I think that is it. For right now, unless I get ETN, that's the running back this week that I've been just harping. That's who I want, because they've got a bye week here. Then they get the Raiders, they get the Texans, they get the Chargers, they get the Cardinals, the Titans, and then the Indianapolis Colts. I'm just seeing it's green, 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 green. That's where I'm going for. As to how I can accomplish that, if Chase Brown and Chuba Hubbard have to be the fodder, so be it. But maybe there's a possibility out there in which you can move a wide receiver 1-for-1. Maybe you can move a tight end and a running back. Maybe you move like a Chase, maybe, a Chuba Hubbard and a Kincaid in order to accomplish that. That's possible. Let's explore that. Skizzy says, how much would you pay for Gadsden in a half PPR? I have Mason Taylor and I want a new tight end. I could trade Worthy, Diggs, Travis Hunter, Trey Tucker, or Pickens. I mean, at this point, I would like to keep Pickens, Diggs. I think Travis Hunter's trending in the right direction. I think Worthy will get back on track soon enough. Tucker maybe by himself in due time because of a Jacoby Myers potential upcoming trade. If I was going to theoretically utilize some fab on Gadsden, it's probably going to be at very most, considering your situation here, I would say 21% max. If you're really trying to be competitive, and that's really trying to be competitive. Otherwise, I would just like, give me 15, 16, and I'll send it. So I think Mason Taylor is a guy that I think this week, specifically as they take on the Bengals, the number one matchup at the tight end position, I'd like to play him. But obviously looking for the future of the season, he's not going to play against the Bengals every week. I'm willing to spend up to 21% for it if you have it. Esteban Simon says, I'm in a 10-team league. I'm 6-1. Would you trade CeeDee Lamb, Hampton, and Garrett Wilson for Puka Nacua, Kyren, and Collins? I would. Yeah, I would. I'd be willing to make that trade. That's fine by me. I think Puka Nacua is a better option than CD, but not by very much. But I think it's enough of a opportunity. I think it's enough of a separation to where I could justify that move. And the fact that you're getting back a healthy running back in the form of Kyren, you don't have to wait for his return. Collins is going to miss a week because of concussion protocol, but so is Garrett Wilson. Yeah, I'd rather have the Puka Nacua side of this overall circumstance. But when I look towards the fantasy playoffs where you're going, weeks, as a 6-1 team, you are more than likely at a 90% success rate to make the playoffs. If I'm looking at the upcoming playoff schedules for both these teams, the Rams have the Detroit Lions, Seattle Seahawks, and Atlanta Falcons. 3 of the toughest matchups you can possibly ask for at RB, which scares the shit out of me for the potential of making this trade. While the Chargers will have KC, Dallas, and Houston. I think that is my only fear, is that Kyren, who is already struggling to find touchdowns, may struggle to find yards in the fantasy playoffs. But again, a lot can happen between now and then. Objectively, at the moment, this is the more valuable side, but when I'm looking towards the playoffs, it scares me. Says, I have Henry, Jacobs, and Hampton. Oh, shoot, never mind. I mean, look, the fact that you have Henry and Jacobs, I'm not afraid anymore. Make the trade. Bring them in. Bring in Puka and Collins, brother. Shit, you got some studs. You're good. That's who you're starting in the fantasy playoffs anyway, so you're good. Justin says, hey, man, I'm 2-5. Team is solid. I score 150 points every week, but I still lose. So here's my suggestion, Justin. In the future, probably next season, I want to suggest, you should probably suggest this to your league and your commissioner to where maybe you guys play a league in which, besides the head-to-head matchup, you also have the a record based on points scored. So the top, like let's say 6 scoring teams get a victory, the bottom scoring teams get a loss. So where you basically have 2 matchups every week, the guy you're playing and the total points you score. Or what I have implemented in majority of my leagues this season, the final playoff spot is determined by most points scored of the final teams that are not in the playoffs. So let's say, for example, it's a 12-team league, 6 make the playoffs. The number 6 spot in the playoffs is determined by of the bottom 7 teams who has the highest points scored for. But yeah, that's my only suggestion. Otherwise, just trust the process and keep playing these studs. Chris sends in a question. Thank you very much, Chris. Very generous of you. Says, I'm in a 10-team keeper league. I'm currently 3-4 in a... Okay, let me make sure my camera didn't turn off. Okay, because that happened yesterday, if you guys remember. And I'm like, yo, where have I been? Okay, it says I'm 3-4 in the playoff spot. Okay, and I'm in a half PPR keep players for a max of 3 years. Okay, in a keeper league. Accept or no, I give JCM... 5th round, okay, so he's a 5th round keeper, and Pearsall, a 6th round keeper, and I get St. Brown, can't be kept. My running backs are Gibbs, Mason, Kamara. My wide receivers are JSN, Collins, Olave, and Worthy. Okay, so this becomes the question. What is more valuable to you? Winning the season this year or looking forward to future seasons? When I look at your roster and I see Gibbs, Mason, Kamara, JSN, Collins, Olave, Worthy, I would abso-fucking-lutely, without a doubt, give me St. Brown and let me have the chip. That's what I want. I want to win the chip this year. And even if I can't keep St. Brown, I think I would like to hope that maybe somebody else can be kept on your roster, and if they can't, so be it. I want the chip this year. I want the title. I want the buy-in. That's what I want. Like, I want to win it all. In the event in which you're looking forward and you're looking like, hey, Andrew, well, I'm 3-4. I don't know if I'm going to make the playoffs. Well, I would say that you're delusional, because if I had St. Brown, JSN, Gibbs, Kamara with a workload of opportunity like we're trending towards, Mason who's dominating, Collins who's going to get better, Olave who's dominating, like I think you're going to make the playoffs and you got a chance at it. And I think it's worth taking that risk of losing out on future value, yes. But man, if we can get the chip, it's worth it. If you think to yourself, Andrew, I'm probably not winning it this year because there's a team that's stacked, then sure, at that point, we can talk ourselves out of it. But for right now, with the context of which I have, I'm pushing for it. Alex Gonzalez says, I have 3 flex spots. What 3 would you pick of the 4? Rico, DK, McMillan, Sutton. I'd play all 3 wide receivers, genuinely. My only concern regarding Rico is that the game plan, yes, is to run the ball for Carolina, but my fear becomes what happens when the Buffalo Bills score 21 unanswered points. They ditched the run game, and then we ditch all Rico value. I think DK, McMillan, and Sutton are the better plays. Derp General says, hi, Andrew. I'm in a half PPR. I'm weak at running back. What should I do? 1, JJ Ladd for JT. JJ for AJ Brown and Garrett. I like that, actually. I have Acham, Pollard, David Montgomery, Rice, JJ Ladd, Kittle, Wanda Robinson, Trey Tucker. Genuinely, I like the idea of trading Justin Jefferson for AJ Brown and Garrett Wilson. I genuinely really like this. If you can wait for Garrett Wilson to come back in 2 weeks, I think this is well worth it, getting AJ Brown and Garrett Wilson in exchange for that. Yes, your running back depth is a little bit soft at the moment, and trading for Jonathan Taylor, the RB1, or presumed potential RB1 for the remainder of the year, is of incredible value here. But do I want to give away JJ and Ladd in order to accomplish that? I have Rice in the meanwhile. Do you think there's a possibility in which you can make this trade of where you send JJ and get AJ Brown and Garrett, and then you can send like Ladd and Garrett to go get JT? So where you have Rice, AJ Brown, JT, Achane, Kittle, Wandell. That's what I would try to explore. In the event in which you can't, I still think that this is the better trade of the bunch. And I would just continue to roll with Achane until probably David Montgomery comes off bye. And then maybe look to try to sell Wandell Robinson on a buy low prospect to where I can try to go and fish myself ETN. Thank you. 26 bands up, says questions in the chat. Thank you, 26. Says start my team in a full PPR. I need 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, 1 flex. Defense is the Bills and the kicker is Pinheiro. Okay. So quarterback, Lamar Jackson's going to play. He starts for me. Wide receiver, Adams is on bye. We have Jefferson. We have Addison. Okay, so I'm starting Jefferson and Addison as my 1-2 combo at wide receiver. I'm looking at running back, in which I have Jonathan Taylor and Scadaboo. They both automatically start. To where I look at tight end between Goddard and Gadsden, and I'm going to play Goddard there because, again, it was just 2 weeks ago where he played against the Giants. He had 9 catches for 110 and a touchdown, and I am going to play Quentin Johnston within my flex position. Thank you. Continuing on, we had the man 0907 says, hope you're doing well. I am. Thank you very much. Says, I have Wando Robinson, Vidal, and Judkins. Can only start 2 of them this week in a half PPR. Ooh, Wando Robinson, I think, has to play. Between Judkins and Vidal, I think there's a justifiable position to where you could end up playing Vidal only in the event in which Joe Alt and Trey Pipkins are available. If both of them are starting tomorrow night against the Minnesota Vikings and both starting tackles are back, I would start Vidal. In the event in which that's not the case, I would just position myself to probably play Judkins there. Thank you. William Gonzalez says, which side wins, Buka/Kyron or JJ and Chase Brown? Okay, on paper, theoretically speaking, I want to say that the advantage is in the form of Kyron and Buka because I don't trust Chase Brown. I understand his most recent week has been, 100 yards is great. We love to see that. But is he any closer to scoring touchdowns? No. Is he any closer to getting more receiving workload? No. To which at this point, with the Evans injury, I genuinely think that Emeka Egbuka side is probably the more valuable one rest of season. Primarily because this quarterback situation, if it goes back to McCarthy and it gets soured really quick, it could scare me. So I'd rather just go with Buka. Blazed says, who are your favorite wide receivers or running backs for rest of season that I should try to target and to solidify my team? I tried to get Henry, but no luck. I have Jonathan Taylor, Genty, JCM, Dowdle, CD, DK, Diggs, Golden, McBride, and Gadsden. Okay, so as of right now, in terms of rest of season running back value, I did post that video a couple days ago. In terms of players that I would like to go after, theoretically speaking, I continue to mention Travis Etienne as one of those buy options that I'm looking for. If you could potentially go ahead and get him, especially considering he's on a bye this week, it could be easier to acquire him, especially considering the more recent performances against 2 of the most elite run-stopping defenses in the league, playing against Seattle and the LA Rams. So fantasy managers in your league may look upon him and think, wow, yeah, he's not playing well. Let me move him. To which it will grant you so much value based on their upcoming schedule ahead. So if I'm in your position, that's what I'm going after. I'd like to go after an ETN. If we're looking after other potential running backs that you could acquire at the moment, Hampton could be someone that if you have a record that is solidified and the Chargers do not make a trade up until this deadline in a couple weeks here, could be someone we're targeting. Otherwise, when I look at the upcoming schedule, I mean, you could theoretically try to buy low on Saquon, but that's such a name value. It's going to require, like, maybe you can send Genty and get away with it. If you can, shit, I'd do it. Those are my immediate thoughts at running back. As for wide receiver, I'm going to go ahead and I'll put together my wide receiver strength of schedule for Friday, just so I have an idea as to what that looks like, and then I'll kind of get a clearer picture. But if I'm looking to trade for wide receivers as of right now, I legitimately want to get Zay Flowers before he has a pop off this week because I think he'll get back to being elite in due time here. Okay, let's see here. Omar says, pick up Cade or Tez. You mean like Cade Otton, right? In the event in which we hire upside rest of the season, who else is Cade? I mean, I don't know if there's any other wide receiver. I think it's only Cade Otton, right? Let me confirm. And then once I've confirmed that, I don't have to really worry about it. Yeah, that's the only one. Okay. So in the event in which you were talking about Cade Otton or Tez Johnson, I would like to probably assume that rest of season, Cade Otton theoretically has more upside because eventually we will see the return of Chris Godwin, which will lessen the overall workload of Tez Johnson effectively. But until then, like Tez Johnson's more valuable in the short term. Cade Otton has technically more value in the long term. Thank you. John War says questions in the chat. Thank you, John. I don't see any questions in the live chat, John. Whenever you get an opportunity, type that in. Thanks, man. This message was redacted, so I don't think there was anything attached to it. Yeah, if it didn't, I think the retracted message, did you end up sending anything else? Yeah, usually from what I've known, having done this for a couple years on YouTube, retracted messages typically are because of like the donation was pulled, but I'll trust you, Jake, for now. Sup, bro? Help it a 5-2 team, 12 team, double flex, half PPR, JD, Woody, Marks, Judkins, London, Adunze, Kraft, Fannin, Quentin Johnston. I have Gibbs on a bye. Rest of the bench is depleted. Any trade ideas? I mean, looking at the team as a whole, obviously we need a quarterback. That's the most important thing for now. Otherwise, I think I can live with like London, Adunze as my wide receivers, Kraft as my tight end, Johnston as my flex, Judkins here. You have Gibbs that's coming off of the bye. I mean, am I looking to potentially make a trade? No, I think you're in a really solidified position. I think the only thing that we need to find for right now is quarterback. But once JD's back and healthy, I think you'll be okay. I'm not really looking to potentially, make a move here. In the event in which, yeah, no, I don't make a move. I keep what you have on roster. I think there's enough value here as it stands. You have Justin Fields and K9. Maybe if you can move K9 in order to go get ETN, whatever it takes, K9, Woody Marks, Justin Fields, Keon Coleman, Fannin, throw the book at them. All those backup ancillary players you have, if you can go ahead and send those and get ETN, that'd be great. All right, John Ward, we took care of. No, we didn't. Okay. John Ward says, I'm in a 12-team, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex league. I'm 4-3. Okay. I got a trade I feel I couldn't turn down. I received Amon-Ra and traded away Quentin Johnston and T. Higgins. I have Dak, Jacobs, Dowdle, Brashard Smith, Hendo, RJ Lamb, Amon-Ra, Ibuka. Yeah, I'm okay with that trade. Considering that is your lineup, that's ridiculous, brother. Says Tyler Warren, I tried trading for second solid RB, but I kept getting rejected. Was it a bad move? I don't think so. I think the fact that this is your lineup of Lamb, Ibuka, and Amon-Ra, I'm pretty happy with it. Obviously, in a league in which you have a double wide receiver, double flex format, losing depth of this quality is very much so going to hurt. But in comparison to like some of the other trades that I've seen, I think I can live with this because of the value in which I'm bringing in. My only other question just becomes like, who is your other flex? That's what the problem is with this trade, because you're starting Dowdle and Jacobs every week, right? You're starting Dak. You're starting Tyler Warren. So Lamb, Amon-Ra, and Ibuka play, but the issue is your next flex option is in the air, and it's really just non-startable players, to which that's why you would hesitate to make a trade of this capacity, because you want to have the depth of quality here, to which you no longer have. So yes, there's positives and negatives for it. I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping that we're able to find somebody to be that second flex going forward. But until then, anytime you can have Amon-Ra on roster, it never hurts. But obviously losing 2 players that would start for you definitely would. Javier says, trade Montgomery, Dobbins, Drake for Ibuka and Kyren. I think it depends. Like, here's the reality. It depends on what the rest of your roster looks like in regards to running back. Like, I think Ibuka and Drake London are very much so comparable players rest of season in terms of value, to which then it just becomes a matter of like, do I want depth or do I not want depth? If you want the depth at running back, you go for this. If you don't, and you're okay just having Kyren in comparison, then you take this side. And that works for me, because obviously Kyren is more valuable than both of these guys one-on-one, but 2-for-1, the depth could be the more valuable side, theoretically speaking. If you don't need the depth, you take the Kyren side. Marvin Lewis, what's up, my man? Says standard league, start tight end Otten, Pitts, or start 2 flexes with Vidal. Also start 2 flexes with Vidal, Harvey, Addison, Otten, Pitts, and Christian Watson. Vidal and Addison probably end up being my starts there. As for starting Pitts against Miami or Otten versus the upcoming matchup against New Orleans, I think both of them are very much so justifiable. Do I love the idea of playing one of those? I think it depends. For now, I'd probably position myself. Man, do I want to play Cade Otton? I think I'd probably, for right now, and I like that Miami matchup, but it's going to be interesting. My only concern with Pitts is, like, if the game gets out of hand and they're just running it down the throat of Miami, like, when does Pitts get his looks? Like, on paper, it's a better matchup. But for right now, I probably lean towards Cade Otton, very closely behind Pitts will be there. And then for flex, I probably just go Vidal and Addison for now. Thank you. Abram, what's up, my man? It says Flowers, McConkey, or Pittman rest of season. I think that's a very much so interesting question. When I say interesting, I mean, I don't know. I think if Flowers gets back to being his normal self, there's an understanding in which he's going to provide value. But what Flowers doesn't provide, in which the other two can very much so do, is score touchdowns. He is not utilized in the red zone. We should not anticipate that to be the case. He is a PPR machine, and you're not playing in a PPR. So for right now, I probably think it's McConkey 1, Pittman 2, Flowers 3. All right. Cheeky says, questions in the chat. Thanks for all the hard work, man. Thank you very much, Cheeky. Says it's time. In a half PPR, I have JSN, Nico, Rome, Sutton, AJ Brown. Wow. Christian McCaffrey, Rico, Kamara, Chase Brown, and Montgomery. Really want a better running back. Tried trading, but keep getting declined. Looking at Olave/JT for Rice and Henry. Looking for a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-2. Wow. Wow. So I think there's balance in this trade. Depending on if Olave can keep it up, I think there's balance, theoretically speaking. But if Rice and Henry are playing to the level at which I anticipate, I think they probably end up being the more valuable duo here, to which I'd be pretty okay going after these two in comparison to the alternative two. But, I mean, honestly, either of these duos are very helpful. Not sure if you need to go ahead and get Rice or Olave here. If you're just going to isolate for a running back, it's probably in your better... It's better for you to try to isolate and just grab like Henry in this circumstance because JT is going to cost so much. I'd probably go after Henry here. Try to utilize, Rico, Kamara in order to send that back along with a wide receiver. So like Sutton, Kamara, Sutton, Rico, potentially. I think that's a way which you can go about it. 2-for-1. Otherwise, I would suggest you go after ETN here. Thank you. Eddie J says, thanks. Questions in the chat. Okay. Says start Otten or Gadsden. I mean, at this point, Cade Otten has it's got a pretty solid matchup considering New Orleans has not been great this season against the opposing tight ends, but I'm kind of in the hot hand mentality to where I'd like to play Gadsden. So that's the direction I go in this week. As for flex, Chase Brown, Judkins, or Tetaroa, I'd rather play Tetaroa as of this week. I think Chase Brown can be justifiable considering the Jets matchup and their lack of run-stopping ability and the positive game script that could be in line. But I think Tetaroa is probably the better play considering the negative script and heavy opportunity share there. So I need help as my wide receiver 3 and RB. Already picked Booty. Do I pick up Jalen Noel or Neal? I'd rather have Noel. Neal, I don't think is going to get enough workload to make it justifiable. I think there's going to be a lot of potentially more Kamara, but also more Taysom Hill as we proceed without Kendre there. Jake Sosa, we took care of that one. Thank you again, Jake. Oh yeah, so it did work. So the retracted message was okay, got it. So I'm glad I answered that, Jake. Thank you. Jack says, Herbert over 219 passing yards, 9.5 rush, or 1.5 touchdowns. All of them. Yes. So are you asking me? Oh yeah, you are asking me. Yeah, I would say he does all of it. He's a mobile quarterback first and foremost. So if we're talking about the overall yardage shares in which he has gotten on the ground this season, especially since we've seen him take on teams that blitz, teams that send heavy blitz packages, I mean, there's a chance he gets out of the pocket, but thus far this season, he has surpassed 20 or more rushing yards in 5 of the last 7 games. So a pretty good rate at which he's able to accomplish this. And then subsequently as well, we have 1.5 passing touchdowns. He's accomplished this in only 4 of the last 7. So this is a more unlikely position. But in the last 2 games without Hampton going off, he's accomplished it in both games. So I would assume that's going to take place once again this week. And then 219 passing yards. Again, he's accomplished in 5 of the last 7. I think all of these are very much so accomplishable. I'm very satisfied with going more on all 3. If I was probably going to put my money where my mouth was, I'd probably go after passing yards to begin with. Thank you. The S box says trade Collins and Kamara for AJ Brown and Jalen Warren. I would. That sounds good to me. Thank you. Bob says, hey, Andrew, in a full PPR, not feeling Keenan for the Thursday Night Football. Bench Monungai, Pitts also have Jordan Love, Rodgers, Flacco, and Caleb. As of those available quarterbacks for this week, considering the Baltimore matchup, I kind of like the idea of going Caleb here. If I wasn't going to go Caleb, I'd probably go Flacco next. Should I keep/drop Spears? You can drop him if you'd like. Otherwise, we're only holding him just to see if he or Pollard are traded prior to the deadline. But if I was in your position, I'm playing Keenan Allen over Monungai and Pitts 10 times out of 10. ISO Flip says, trade Dart for McLaurin. I have Dak Prescott. Yeah, I like that trade. That works for me. Thank you. Understand that Dak Prescott has an upcoming bye, so as long as you prepare yourself for that, I think you'll be fine. Fantasy Forecast says, Ladd and Kamara for Diggs and Sutton. Ooh, okay. In a full PPR scoring format, I could justify this. Only if you have enough running back depth to be able to give away Kamara and it won't hurt you too negatively. That's fine by me. I like this trade. Markel Adams says, hey, Andrew, I'm currently 4-3 in a full PPR. Would you drop Pollard and take a shot on Spears or Brashard Smith? I mean, genuinely, Spears has gotten, 8 and 9 touches the last couple weeks. Brashard Smith, 100% is determined as to whether he finds success based on how badly they blow out the opposing team. So considering that is the current iteration of what this Chiefs offense is presenting in terms of his value. Oh, wait. The question was, would you drop Pollard? No, I wouldn't drop Pollard. I'd rather have Pollard over these two because I think there's a higher likelihood that Pollard gets traded rather than anything. Says I have Bucky and Aaron Jones coming back. Yeah, I just keep Pollard there. Thank you. Beaver says, hey, Andrew, I'm 2-5. Would you trade Pickens and Javonte Williams for Diggs, Terry, and Achane? My wide receivers are Pickens, Johnston, Mooney, Jennings. Okay, so looking at how horrible your wide receiver depth currently sits at, yeah, I'd be willing to make this trade. That's fine by me. I'll take the Diggs, Terry, McLaurin, and Achane side because if you're in a position to where you can start Diggs, Terry, Achane, Saquon, and then probably Johnston in your flex, I think you're better off in the future making that kind of a position. Thank you. Ibrahim says, would you trade for Devontae, Emeka with a 6-1 roster? I would trade for Emeka. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Am I trading for Devontae Adams? If you're getting him to be your wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, then sure. But if you're trading for Devontae Adams to be your wide receiver 1, I think you're paying too much for him. Holocard says, got offered Javonte Williams for Bucky Irving. Thoughts? I would take Javonte Williams. Again, here's my thought process on the matter. Like I mentioned earlier, and I'll reiterate, I think Bucky Irving, once he returns from injury in Week 10, will see a lot of Rachaad White in the mix in comparison to what we saw earlier this year. The reason why Bucky Irving fell apart and had to miss this much of a significant time range is because of the volume of touches they gave him early on. In week 2, he had 23 touches. In week 3, had 29 touches. And in week 4, had 19 touches. You cannot sustain that kind of a workload all season long without some sort of potential for injury. He obviously received the injury. And even when he returns, I think the overall workload, yes, it's going to be strong enough to keep him top 12 relevant. But I think I'd rather have Javonte considering what Rachaad White could provide in terms of diminishing the role of Bucky outright. Keelan sends in a question, Keelan. Pick 3. PPR, Dobbins, Ladd, Higgins, or Devontae Smith. I'd rather play all 3 wide receivers. Thank you. H. Jockish says PPR, drop any of Travion Henderson, Woody Marks, or Tyjae Spears for Rashard Smith, Isaiah Davis, or Monungai. If we're talking about starting for this week, I'd rather start Monungai over Spears. And quite frankly, I'd rather have Isaiah Davis over Spears for the potential of a trade of Breece Hall being shipped off. So depending on what you need, if you need a starter for this week or if you need a potential long-term play, that's the way I go about it. Marcus H says, should I drop Fannin for Otton or Gadsden or keep him? I would genuinely rather have Gadsden rest of season because Fannin will eventually get Njoku back. Fantasy Forecast says Judkins, Diggs for his Cook, full PPR. Let me go back and look at what the rest of your roster look like. I have Ladd and Kamara for Diggs and Sutton, Judkins and Diggs for Cook. If your wide receiver depth won't hurt losing Diggs here. I'd much rather have Cook rest of season than Judkins. I'd rather have the starting running back that's associated with the Bills offense rather than the starting running back associated with the Browns. I think objectively speaking, that is justifiable. So in a full PPR, yes, I would rather have James Cook here. This is a trade that I'm very much so interested in making, to which if you do end up trading Ladd and Kamara for Diggs and Sutton, and then trade Diggs and Judkins for Cook, you end up with Sutton and Cook having moved away Judkins, Kamara, and Ladd. The optics there don't look beautiful, but I don't mind it because I would assume that the rest of your roster is stacked considering the trades you're making. Torrin Davis sends in a question. Torrin says, hey, Andrew, I'm in an 8-team full PPR, 3-4 in 5th place. Should I trade Jaden Daniels and Keenan Allen for Josh Allen? I would say probably yes. Saquon, Henry, Scott, yeah, I would. Considering you have Puka, London, Rice, I'd immediately make this trade blindly. Give me Josh Allen rest of the way. He's past his bye week. He's healthy. He hasn't missed a game in God knows how long. Let's play it. Thank you. Grant says, I'm 7-0 in a PPR. Grant, you're one of the very few remaining undefeated teams in the community. Congratulations, sir. It says trade Swift for Omarion Hampton and Vidal to get better for the playoffs. Swift's schedule is bad. Is it bad? I mean, let's see here. The Bears' upcoming schedule for weeks 8 through 14, they have technically the 5th best schedule at running back. Baltimore, Cincy, New York Giants, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Green Bay. Outside of the Green Bay and Pittsburgh game, he has incredible matchups at RB. In regards to the fantasy playoff schedule, I will agree that he has a very unadvantageous schedule, specifically against Cleveland, Green Bay. Not interested in playing either of those. So if you're purely looking for the playoffs, technically, yes, I would rather have Omarion Hampton and Vidal. Thank you. Flotation says, if Jones plays tomorrow, do I keep him or on the bench? I would keep him on the bench. I don't know if they're going to give him more than maybe 10 touches max. So in the event in which he doesn't score a touchdown, he gets you 5, 6, 7 points. I'm not really interested in that in comparison to the alternative options you have on your roster there, Flotation. Thanks, man. Abram says, Jalen Warren or ETN rest of season? I'd probably rather have ETN rest of season as of right now. Jacob Reinhart says, as of the most recent rest of season rankings video I did produce, you have a full PPR, huh? Give me Jalen Warren, actually. In a full PPR, yeah, I'd go Warren. In a half PPR standard, I'd rather have ETN. Warren is far too valuable in a full PPR circumstance. Jacob Reinhart says, Nico Judkins for CeeDee Lamb, Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is not startable. So, I guess if you want CD, sure, but I don't think this guy is a top 24 running back as of right now. So, do with that what you will. I don't love the trade. Joseph Mai says, I have 4 questions in the chat. Maybe I can answer a couple of them. 10 teams, someone just traded Saquon and Pittman for Pickens. Seems like a bad trade, right? Yeah, it's a terrible trade. That's collusion. Objectively speaking, that's collusion. In no reality should that trade ever be made. With the context of what Pickens has with Lamb returning, this doesn't make sense. I would veto that. That one's like an objective thing. Even though I do hold the position of I don't veto trades, that the optics here are horrible. 14-man, 2 and 5. Rico, Sharps, Bucky are my running backs. Okay. Should I pick up Woody Marks and drop one of them or Shakir or Golden? If I was in your position, I would drop Golden and I would pick up, I would pick up Woody. That would be my suggestion. Next question says, I'm 6-1. I traded Rico and Pollard for Hampton, full PPR. Was that good? Rico and Pollard for Hampton. At a 6-1 record, I would say yes. Well done. Thank you. Well done. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Siobhan. What's up? Okay, really quickly, guys. I'm going to be closing the stream in 23 minutes. At 7:30, I'll be closing it out. I do appreciate you guys being patient, but that's where I'm going to have to call it at a dead stop so that I'll be back tomorrow with my tight end and quarterback rankings. And then, of course, live streaming tomorrow after the Thursday night game between Minnesota and the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay, let's close out here strong with Siobhan Walker, who says, I need a kicker to drop one. Mooney, Schultz, Ridley. Okay, so if you need to drop one of these 3 options, I'm probably dropping Dalton Schultz here. I have Bijan, Algier, Pacheco, okay, and would drop Coker for Franklin for upside long term. I think Coker should be dropped in every league no matter what. In regards to picking up Franklin, I'm perfectly happy with that. But if I need to drop one of these three, I'm dropping Schultz in order to accomplish this. Thank you. Aaron Northcutt says Addison, Keenan Allen, Panthers running backs, Diggs, Worthy, pick 2 wideouts and 2 flex. I have Swift. Okay, so of these available options, I'm objectively going to start. I'd probably go Addison, Keenan Allen, Diggs, and Rico Dowdle. That's probably the 4 that I play this week. I could justify playing all 4 wide receivers, but for right now, let's go Rico, Diggs, Keenan Allen, and Addison. Thank you. The S-Box says, I have one more question in the chat. Thanks, man. Okay, S-Box. Says, how do I improve my 1-6 team in a full PPR? Okay, really quickly. For those of you who have a 1-6 team, anytime a player hits the bye week, you trade them in that given week. Doesn't matter who they are. So in the event in which, let's see, you have Hurts, Jefferson, Flowers, McMillan, Olave, Worthy, Genti gets traded. Okay, so if I'm in your position, I'm immediately trading Genti for a player that has a great schedule today in the event in which you can potentially secure yourself a W. So as of right now, how do we improve this team? Well, I love what you have at quarterback with Jalen Hurts, auto start every week. Jefferson, Flowers, Tedero, McMillan, Olave are all great. So no issues there. Obviously, you might only be able to start 3 if you're playing in a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. If in fact that is the case, maybe we take one of these wide receivers alongside of Genti and go trade for Derrick Henry. And that's my immediate thought process here. I want to get a running back that can help contribute to this week in specific. So if I can accomplish that by trading for a running back that has a relatively solid matchup this week, that's what I would try to accomplish. If I can try to get a running back who's also past their bye week for the rest of the way and is going to provide ample value in the form of a Derrick Henry, let's accomplish that. James Cook is another option we can go for. Obviously, these are very much so high-valued names, but if you could, I'd even explore Alvin Kamara. Jordan Mason is past his bye, which is very valuable. I just need somebody that's going to give me value now and that I can at least win, because if I lose here, it might be over. Jonathan says, Dart or Caleb? That's a really good question. Look, I prefer rushing upside. Now, I will admit that there is a potential in a shootout between the Chicago Bears and potentially the Baltimore Ravens here this week. So because of that, there is a potential in which Caleb could provide a little bit more value, but Dart is my start this week between the two. Bench Vidal, Brees, or Judkins. If I was going to theoretically bench one, I think it's pure. Like, I'm going to play Brees Hall because of Tyrod Taylor. Between Vidal and Judkins, I think it's purely dependent on who is healthy between the offensive tackles of the Los Angeles Chargers. In the event in which both are healthy, I'm playing Vidal there. Otherwise, I play Judkins. I don't want to play Judkins this week. I'll admit that. Against New England, it's a terrible matchup. But if the offensive tackles for the Chargers are not healthy, it may not be a startable option there. To which we may ditch Vidal. But if Joe Alt, Pipkins play, these are the two. Rogo says, sup, bro? I own Reichard and the Denver Broncos drop Lutz for Cincinnati. A good move. Reichard's a great kicker. You have the Denver Broncos defense. You're not going to play him against Dallas. So we would theoretically pick up Cincinnati to play again. Yeah, I would say that that's a good move. That works for me. In regards to some other defenses you can theoretically pick up and play this week, Indianapolis, if they're available. I like the idea of course, like, if Buffalo was dropped in your league and you could pick them up, play them against Carolina. Cincinnati, I think, is like a really solid option there, though. I think that's great. Jonathan says, Addison, not Jordan Mason. Okay, let's see what we had here. Half PPR, Jordan Addison, Keon Coleman, Wando Robinson. Jordan Addison, Wando Robinson. Those are my 2 starts. But Jordan Addison's number 1. Thank you. Start Vidal or Shaheed? I'd rather start Vidal. Aaron Northcott says you'd start those options over Zay Flowers. Let me go back to your team. Addison. I have... No, Flowers is my highest ranked. Again, I'll go ahead and I'll show you again. Earlier today, I posted my top 40 wide receiver rankings for this week. Flowers is at number 11. Like, I'm playing Flowers outright. So in your position where you have Swift, Flowers, and Cook in the lineup, that is correct. To which then, if you need one more wide receiver and then 2 more flex, it would be Addison, Keenan Allen, and Diggs. I misunderstood your question. I didn't realize that Flowers was already starting in your league, to which... you have to start 3 out of those available options, which would be Diggs, Keenan Allen, and Addison. And then your next question was Jalen Warren or Rashad White in a half PPR, to which this week I would play Rashad White because I do not like the matchup for Jalen Warren against the Packers. Thank you. Rogo says pick 3 wide receivers in a flex. Okay. McConkey, Adunze, Shaheed, Dobbs. Okay, so if I'm picking 3 of the 4, McConkey, Adunze, and Dobbs, Shaheed's the odd man out. Thank you. All right, guys, we got a couple more minutes here in regards to the live stream. I do appreciate y'all sending in those super chats in order to support the channel in that regard. That is greatly appreciated. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the main big screen so I can go ahead and show the chat, and we can continue to answer some live chat questions here. Let's see here. McConkey is shaky. Makes me not want to start him. What about 15 targets was shaky, brother? I didn't see any shakiness there. I mean, again, McConkey, as of the last 3 weeks, has been great. I don't think anything that he has provided as of the last 3 weeks makes me think I should be sitting him. Alejo, what's up, my man? Hope you're doing well. Alejo says, in a full PPR, I got offered Garrett Wilson for Chris Olave. Is it worth it? Currently sitting at 4-3 with 6 out of the 7 players on my bench on bye this week. Genuinely, I think I'd rather... With the quarterback issues that revolve around the Jets, I think I'd rather just keep Olave for now. In the event in which Olave gets traded and his situation becomes a little bit blurrier, it may not be vital to where we have to make this trade. I don't know. As of right now, I probably keep Olave. At a 4-3 record, I don't know if I want to miss out on Garrett 2 weeks here and then go to a 4-5 record and then I'm in trouble. I'd keep Olave. And what's up, man? Says half PPR at flex Gatson, Judkins, Chubb, or Spears. Honestly, genuinely speaking, I probably play the tight end or Judkins, to which at this point, I could justify playing the tight end, but I think I have to play Judkins just out of principle. Do you think Ricky Pearsall will play? You know what's funny? After I recorded the video today and I'm editing, I get a report on my phone. It says, Ricky Pearsall misses practice. I'm like, brother, I just put you in my rankings and then you're, of course, not practicing. We'll know by Friday. Do I think he's going to play? I think it depends. Like, is it an alternative option that you have playing tomorrow? Or are we just asking for generality's sake? If we're asking for generality's sake, I'd say he probably doesn't play. Not practicing on Wednesday is a pretty big deal in my mind, especially after he's missed multiple weeks of practice. Quentin Johnson, Keenan Allen is what makes it seem shaky. No, I get that. But I mean, ultimately, it's a top tier offense, so I trust it. If Nico is out this week, Jalen Noel or Mason Taylor in the flex, I'd probably lean towards Mason Taylor there, even if Nico's out. Okay, my YouTube just crashed. Apologies. Let me go ahead and let me reset that real quickly so I can continue to answer these questions from you guys. Appreciate you guys coming through the channel today. Again, I know that there are many of you and only one of me, and I know many of you have a question, but I do appreciate your guys' patience here. All right, let me go ahead and let me relaunch the chat here. I'll be here for another 14 minutes, then we're heading out. Appreciate y'all. Okay, what do we have here? Let me just go ahead and I'm going to adjust this. SR20 Mars says, I lost Mike Evans and running backs or wide receivers should I pick up? Okay. So do you have a list of potential wide receivers or running backs that are available in your league? If you can, do me a favor and type that into the live chat so I can help you out. Again, I will mention if you need a wide receiver for this week, potentially somebody that's mentioned in this video that I posted earlier today at wide receiver. For example, some waiver wire pickup options that could be out there. Tez Johnson, Alec Pierce, Jalen Noel, Marvin Mims, Xavier Legette, Kayshon Boutte could be available. If those are guys that are available in your league, you can go and pick them up and potentially start them this week. And then you can check out the running back rankings video I posted yesterday to find some other alternative RB options that you may need to pick up and play this week. Hollywood Brown or Shaheed, I would rather play Shaheed. I know Hollywood Brown's been a touchdown monster as of late, but Shaheed is the better play of the two. Emiliano says, I got Devontae Smith for Rashad White. Good trade. That's a fantastic trade. Ando says, Tez Johnson, Xavier Legette, Christian Watson, or Mims. I'll take Tez Johnson over the group. I understand I'm desperate at this point. I'm 2-5. No, I get it. I get it, brother. I get it. Ryan says, also, you're the first fantasy football creator I've ever come across about 5 years ago. It's great to see that you're still going strong. Thank you very much, Ryan. Yeah, listen, we've been doing this for quite a while now. The ups and downs of the fantasy seasons have certainly put an impact upon the channel, but hey, definitely having a lot of fun, continuing to love every day of this, talking fantasy. So thank you for the support for all these years, my man. Again, we're so close, guys. We're so close to 100K subscribers. That's the goal. If everybody here went and they found, their friend's YouTube account and just clicked subscribe, it would mean the world. I know those are artificial kind of subscribers, but listen, I'll take it sometimes. Andy, what's up, my man? Says, is it worth keeping Marvin Harrison in a dynasty league? Of course. Should I give up on him? No, never give up. Again, even though Marvin Harrison doesn't function within this offense, it doesn't mean that the offensive coordinator doesn't get fired next year and they bring in somebody from a McVay offense and turn Harrison into the next Puka Nacua. Like, these are always available possibilities. Never give up in a dynasty. Rick says, Andrew, longtime subscriber, in a half PPR, start Theo Johnson or Mark Andrews? I'd rather start Mark Andrews. The reality of the situation is Theo Johnson's touchdown was quite lucky this most recent week. A little bit of a tip pass lead to a broken play. Theo Johnson last time out against the Philadelphia Eagles didn't find much opportunity, much less success. So I don't really trust it. I'd rather go after Mark Andrews, the number one red zone threat of Lamar Jackson's entire career. AJ says, I need a flex for this week in a PPR. Who would you start in this list? Spears, Troy Franklin, Booty, Loveland, Noel, or Hollywood? As of right now, Noel would be probably number one. Franklin 2, Booty 3 in a PPR. That's the way I go about it. Jose says, I got offered Jamar Chase for Achane and Devontae Smith. Should I take the deal? I mean, genuinely, I think there's a very good argument in which you should, but I think it depends on what you have at running back depth. Can you afford to lose Achane is my primary question at the moment. SR20 Mart with the follow-up says, I have Woody Marks, Tyjae Spears, Zach Charbonnet, Shaheed Downs, Judy, and Hollywood Brown. Thanks. Okay. So, of these available, Woody Marks should be picked up. Zach Charbonnet should be picked up. I mean, Charbonnet's number one on that list of the available options here. Charbonnet number one, Woody Marks number two, Shaheed 3, Downs 4. Let's go pick those players up immediately, brother. Got Devontae. Yeah, this is a fantastic trade, Emiliano. I mean, just an incredible trade. Rogo says, I lose Gibbs this week. I have Pacheco and Woody Marks. Honestly, Rogo, at 2 and 6, at 2 and 5, I think I might go trade Gibbs. I trade Gibbs and I go get a running back. Give me Derrick Henry. That way you don't lose this week. You know what I mean? Like, it gives you a fighter's chance. Bronx, what's up, man? Says, hello. I need 2 wide receivers in a flex between Waddle, Quentin Johnston, T. Higgins, Addison, Devontae Smith. Who are you starting? I think it's relatively simple in my mind. I'd rather play Devontae Smith as my number 1, followed by probably going Waddle as my number 2 and T. Higgins as my number 3. Those are the 3 highest ranked players I believe that I had in my wide receiver rankings video earlier today. Those are the 3 that I would go with. T. Higgins, Waddle, Devontae Smith. Let's see here. Cheeky, did you have a follow-up question? If you had a follow-up question, let me know. I know that you retracted that one. Sharby or Warren rest of season? Standard league? Ooh. In a standard format, I think the touchdowns are incredibly important, and there's a really good chance that Sharby just continues to score considering how well the Seahawks have played. But oh man, I don't know. That's such a tough question. I'm actually curious who scored more points this season on average. Let me see. If we go running back and we change it to non-PPR, let me see who is a better producer this season. Charbonnet is number 27. Where's Warren in a standard? Okay, Warren is actually producing more points per game on average this season. Okay, so then yeah, we'll go with Warren there. I wasn't aware because I don't play in a standard format, so I didn't know how much of an impact the receptions were making. Awesome Republic says 12-team PPR, Bijan, Aaron Jones, McLaurin for CeeDee Lamb and Bucky. Getting some friends to subscribe. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I understand that telling your friends to subscribe is kind of counterintuitive to the idea of you trying to win your league, because if they get the advice, then it could hurt you. I understand that, but man, it would go a long way. I'd greatly appreciate that, guys. Okay, let's see here. Bijan, Aaron Jones, McLaurin, CeeDee, Bucky. Okay. So in the event in which you are getting Bucky and CeeDee Lamb and you're giving away Bijan, McLaurin, Aaron Jones, I think it's really just a matter of, do you have Rachaad White? That's number 1. Because I think CeeDee Lamb and Bijan, I do prefer Bijan rest of the season. To which then it becomes a matter of like, if I have Rachaad White here and I can justify going and buying in on Bucky, then yes, I make this trade. Otherwise, I'm a little bit sketched out and maybe I don't make it. Should I wait and see what happens with Goddard or start Gadsden? What happened with Goddard? Wait. Hold up. What happened with Goddard? Goddard limited with calf injury 4 hours ago. If tomorrow he doesn't get a limited participation of practice, if he misses again, play Gadsden. I think that's the way you have to do it, probably. Trading Gibbs is crazy. LOL, I understand, but man, that's tough for me. Yeah, no, I get it. Listen, but if you lose this week, you might be out of playoff contention. That's the only issue there. It's Path says trade Puka, Chuba, and Pearsall for Javonte, Ladd, and Kamara. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I would. I think the depth of what you get here, okay, let's say, for example, Path, if Javonte, Ladd, and Kamara start for you outright every week rest of the season, it's worth the trade. If you do not start them rest of season outright in their individual positions because they end up being on bench, I'd rather just have the number one wide receiver in fantasy at that point. Half PPR, would you flex Alec Pierce or Gadsden? I think I'd rather play the tight end because I don't know if Downs is coming back. If he does, I think it reduces the value of Pierce to where I'd rather play Gadsden on Thursday. Bronx says Lamar, Achane, Brees, Waddle, Quentin Johnston, T. Higgins, Addison. Okay, so who's your running backs? You have Brees Hall, Achane. Is Warren Tyler or Jalen? You have ETN. Okay. So you could theoretically, you could justify making the trade. I think it's doable. ETN, Brees, Benson, Warren. I think you can do it. Rankings aside, what's your gut say? Excuse me. Justin Herbert or Dart? Rankings aside, my gut tells me 275 yards, 3 passing touchdowns from Herbert. So, can I pass up on that? I don't think so. I think I play Herbert. If Purdy is ready to go this week, do I start him over Stroud? Absolutely. Old J running. What's up, Old J? Says PPR, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. This is going to be one of the final questions. Appreciate it. If I could subscribe twice, I'd do it in a second. Much respect. Thanks, man. Okay, Old J, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. We have Vidal, Jordan Mason, Jalen Warren, Chase Brown, Ladd McConkey, Ibuka, McMillan, T. Higgins. Thanks so much, Andrew. Okay, so Old J, let's see what you have here. Of the available options, you got a bunch of studs. Lamb has to play. It doesn't matter that he plays against the Broncos. He has to play. Ibuka has to play. So those are 2 that are automatics. To which then I think T. Higgins has to start, primarily because the number 2 wide receiver against the Jets has been dominant this season. And then I'm playing Jalen Warren. No, in a PPR, am I playing Jalen Warren over Chase Brown? Yeah, I am. I'm playing Jordan Mason and Jalen Warren at running backs. Thank you. Ryan says, I'm number 1 waiver wire. Add this pick. Okay, I have the number 1 pick. When should I be using this? I have CD, Puka, Waddle, and Nico, and Travis. Okay, so this is my thought process. I would hold on to the number 1 waiver until you saw a season-ending injury for a significant running back to where the backup handcuff is available. That's the only time I would do it. Other than that, the only other time in which I would utilize my number 1 waiver is in the event in which you can pick up that player and immediately trade them because of the value which they provide. Maybe not to your roster because you have CD, Puka, and Waddle, but maybe another team's roster in which you're like, okay, I can take this, pick this up, and then send it with Judkins to get a better running back. You know, I think that would be an appropriate utilization of it. Luke C says, pick 2, flex, Noel, Keon Coleman, or Spears. Noel and Keon would be my starts in a PPR format. Thank you. Swollen, what's up, man? Says, picked up Manungai and Chuba Hubbard for Tony Pollard, T. Johnson, PPR. Honestly, Tony Pollard, Chuba Hubbard, I think there's an argument to be made that Pollard is more valuable. And then as for Tej Johnson, Manungai, I think it's just purely a matter of like, what do you need going forward? But for right now, I think these are more valuable in terms of the this week kind of circumstance. That's my thought process on the matter. All right, guys. I think that's where we're going to go ahead and we're going to call it here. I do appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. Again, if you guys want my Sunday morning rankings every single Sunday, sent from my email directly to yours, by position, by tier, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, defense, and flex for half and full PPR scoring formats. Check out Betr. Sign up today using code Andrew. Make that first time deposit minimum of 10 and make that first time play minimum of $1 within a real cash play. And you'll be able to get not only the free $10, but my rankings every single Sunday morning. So make sure you're eligible based on your current location, your age, etc. Do so responsibly. Thank you very much. If in fact Betr is not eligible in your state or you're not looking to go ahead and travel down that path, you can always go ahead and sign up via the Patreon, in which you can get Thursday rankings, Sunday rankings, ask me unlimited questions on an individual basis by sending me direct messages via the Patreon Messenger or either Discord. Either of those two available. I thank you guys for supporting the channel as you guys continue to do so. Much love. I'll be back tomorrow with quarterback and tight end rankings. But until then, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cue the double helix. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.